Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Topics with Mr. Javadi. I was a school teacher myself for many years, and that's why the title for the program. The channel is really mostly informative, educational, and things along that line. And so today I have a very special guest, Superintendent Deborah Smith from Fort Washakie High School in the Wind River Reservation, I believe.
Mhm.
And, we're just going to talk about I guess, somewhat the Indian perspective on education, just a tad bit, and as well as just covering the generalities of education, because a lot of things are universal. So, without further ado, Superintendent Smith, thank you for joining us. Welcome to the program. Please take a couple of moments to just talk about yourself a little bit.
Okay. Thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here. My name is Deb Smith, and I am an enrolled Eastern Shoshone tribal member on the Wind River Indian Reservation. And let me turn this down.
That's fine, no problem.
Um, I'm also of Northern Arapaho descent. Um, I have been the superintendent here for Fremont County School District 21 in Fort Washakie, going on my 6th year. And I've been in the district for 14 years. I was a special education director for the district. And prior to that, I worked in another school district down the road, at Arapahoe School District as their special ed director. I've worked for our Department of Education at the state of Wyoming. Um, I've also worked for our tribal Head Start programs for the Shoshone and Arapaho tribes in our early intervention programs, which is our birth to three um, program for infants and children with disabilities. So,
I
yeah,
see.
yeah. So I've been
That
in
sounds,
education
yeah,
for a long, long time.
long, long time. So, how many years altogether?
Almost 30, about 28, I believe. I,
Wow.
yeah, I started working for our Tribal Head Start program when completed my bachelor's degree at the University of Wyoming. So I stepped
Mhm.
into early childhood and then I just kind of worked my way up. And so now I'm the superintendent of our community elementary schools.
There is a famous quarterback from your university these days, isn't there?
Yes, Josh
In the
Allen.
yeah, in the NFL. Yeah, we've been talking about him, so he's got our attention. But anyway, where did you grow up? If you want to just talk about that, how was those early years? Going to school, that type of stuff.
Mhm. So I grew up in the Fort Washakie and Lander area. Lander is a few miles off of the reservation. It's kind of a border town. So my early years, we moved to Fort Washakie when I was just a baby. Um, my mom is the enrolled tribal member. My dad is non-native. And we moved to Lander from Fort Washakie because my dad worked at the US Steel Mine and my mom worked for our tribal reservation program. And so the commute was a little easier for my dad living in town than driving all the way back out to Fort Washakie. So I started school in the Lander school system when I was in kindergarten, um, and that was back in the early 70s. And coming from a background where one parent is Native American and your other parent is non-native or white, and I'm light skinned, so I got a lot of teasing, a lot of um, I don't know how to say. I was a very shy kid.
Mm-hmm.
I also was kind of reserved to myself because
Mm-hmm.
there wasn't a lot of Indian kids in our inlander growing up. There wasn't a lot of other races besides um, whites in our small town in Wyoming, which now, fortunately, that's changed. But at the time, I developed a real thick skin and took a lot of teasing, and I got teased um, and bullied on both sides, both the native side because I wasn't dark enough skinned and my dad's white, and teased from the non-Indians because my mom's Indian and I just never really knew where to fit in. So um, it was it was kind of a tough childhood growing up. We weren't well off. We were blue collar people. My mom and dad both worked. I had two older siblings, my two older sisters. Um, but on the plus side of growing up um, in a native family, we have a lot of extended family. My mom is one of 13 children in her family, so I have a lot of aunts and uncles, a lot of cousins that were very close. We always
Yeah.
did family events at my grandparents' house, and so grew up with that strong sense of family and togetherness and um, being very um, tuned into our culture and our traditions and things that we do, both on the Eastern Shoshone side and both on and the Northern Arapaho side. And so my sense of family and belongingness was really high, and that helped me.
Hmm.
And then I attended schools in Lander. I always wanted to come out to Fort Washakie because my cousins went to school out here, but because we lived in town, we stayed in town for school. Um,
Hmm.
Went up all the way from kindergarten all the way through 12th grade, graduated from Lander Valley High School. But at that point, some of my cousins that went to school at Fort Washakie came into town to high school, so that was nice. I got some of my
Yeah.
cousins, we got to go to high school together, got to play basketball and sports and things like that. So that was good. Um, I wasn't really sure what I was going to do after high school, so I got enrolled in this um, program called Higher Education Project, which was targeting minority students and students of first generation college students. And
Hmm.
my both of my parents didn't formally go to college. I was kind of recruited to go to this program, and I spent one summer, I believe it was the summer between my freshman and sophomore years of high school. We went down to the University of Wyoming, and there was two of us from Lander that went, and we're both Indian students. And then there was a handful of students from the Fremont County schools. There was some students from Wyoming Indian. There were students from Riverton, and then there was just us from Lander, the two. And we went down to Laramie for about 5 or 6 weeks and stayed on campus and learned what it would be like to go to college and what was required, and you know living in a dorm and being away from home. And that was probably one thing that really did help me to kind of see that I could do that, and that
Hmm.
what was going to be required of me. It was very hard to be away from my family. That was the first time I had been on my own, and I was like 14 years old. Um, and it was hard. And so, but I kept up with the program and I did that all through high school. And then when graduation came around, I had applied to the University of Wyoming. That was the only college I applied to because I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. And two of my friends, my non-native friends, were going to the university, and both of their parents had graduated from college. So I kind of followed them.
Hmm.
I didn't really know what to do. I didn't even know, like how to pay tuition, that you go to the bookstore and you buy all these books, and how to register for classes. I had no idea. But I figured it out and got involved with our Indian club down there, the Keepers of the Fire at the university level, and was very active in that. I had a
Hmm.
cousin that was there, so that kind of helped. And then we were a very close-knit community down there. All the native students would get together and we'd have dinners, and they became kind of our we became a family away from our families on the res.
Kind of like a support system. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
much.
Yeah.
And so I also helped other students that would come down. Um,
Hmm.
I did some tutoring, and then I worked for our Indian education office down there on campus to kind of help other Native students get acquainted with college life and what to expect. Because for a lot of us, back in the late 80s is when that was, early 90s, um, going to school was our first experience. Going to college was our first experience away from home for a long period of time. And that's
Hmm.
really, really hard adjustment, especially when you grow up with our Indian community being as close as we are. And so like my two friends that I followed to college, we ended up um, getting an apartment our sophomore year and rooming together, but they had totally different experiences from what I experienced at college. They,
Hmm.
I would come home when I could. I was still expected to do things that were associated with family events, and it wasn't like that for them. So I don't know. It was harder. I took longer to graduate. I took about another year because I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do when I was in college. And so I took some classes just to kind of figure it out. But I knew that if I um, didn't go back to college when I came home from the summer, that it was going to be really, really hard for me to finish. And so I stuck it out and then decided to go into education. I had first started to go into nursing, but then I decided to go into education and finished up and came back. And um, it felt like I was gone forever, but it really wasn't. So it was a good experience overall.
Well, from what you were saying, I get the picture that you were very motivated, you were very driven, and I guess a message, since it's kind of a informative educational channel, the message would be to those watching that if you're driven, you're motivated, you're determined, you can get things done. You can
Mhm.
work at them and get it done. And that sounds to me like that's what you did. You
Yeah.
advocated for yourself. You went and did the things that you needed to do to get to where you were going.
Mhm.
And that is a really a amazing achievement. So, uh, how did you do at the University of Wyoming? Were there other degrees you studied, or I mean, what degrees did you get at the University of Wyoming?
I got my bachelor's degree in child and family studies, which I went on to pursue early childhood with that degree and then early childhood special education. I went back when I finished, when I was working at Head Start and then later on early intervention, and got my master's degree in
Hmm.
curriculum and instruction.
I see.
And then I started working for the Department of Education, Wyoming Department of Education in their special programs unit. Um, because of my experience working with early childhood special education, there was a job that opened up and I had just completed my master's. And my master's was curriculum instruction, but my area of emphasis was special education slash early childhood special education. So I applied for this job at WDE not knowing, one, if I would even be qualified, but I thought I might as well try. And then
Hmm.
two, not sure really if that's what I wanted to do, but I felt um, like I could make a difference, especially for our students and our families on the reservation and
Hmm.
our Indian community. And so I got the job and I went to work for WDE for about 3.5 years, and I learned so much from that, not just in early childhood, but from birth all the way up through college. I learned about the education system, the regular education system, the special education system, post-secondary. It was an amazing experience, and I'm really glad that I took the chance. Um,
Yeah.
and from then, it like opened a lot of doors for me, and opened my eyes as to what opportunities there were, and that's how I got the job at Fremont County 38, which is Arapahoe School District, I became their special education director. And I really enjoyed um, that job. And then the same position as a special education director came open in Fort Washakie, which is my home community. So I was able to get this job and got my foot in the door working for our district here. And I've loved it. Um, and when I was at WDE, there was a lot of opportunities to have conversations with educators that had higher positions than me
Hmm.
about our Indian students and what the needs are and ways to address academic performance and supports that our districts out here need, because I don't think there was really a lot of uh, people at WDE that knew who to ask questions to, or knew what to ask about
Yeah.
how do we work with this unique population. And so I was able to kind of bridge the gap a little bit and help some of the people that were assigned to these schools as a support and actually get them the connections that they need. And I was also worked with, there was a gal there that they had hired to be kind of a consultant, a native consultant, and she was native, but she wasn't from our reservation. She was a different tribal member. And so I think
Hmm.
and she had difficulty knowing who to go to. Um, but she and I helped start the Native Ed Conference, Native Education Conference that WDE has put on for the past
Hmm.
like
Right.
15 years now. And it's, you know, getting a lot of information to teachers and educators and um, people that need to know more about education practices um, and just issues on our reservation and well, actually across the nation regarding Indian students. And so that was something that I'm proud of, that I helped be a part of when I was at WDE.
Hmm.
And in my role now, like when I was the special education director, I had no intention of being a superintendent, but the superintendent at the time was retiring. And so I was worried that we were going to get somebody that didn't know our community or didn't know um, what we needed. And so
Yeah.
I went back and took classes to get the superintendent certification through the University of Wyoming. And I told the superintendent, I want to take some classes so that I can know what your your role is supposed to know in case we get somebody in here that doesn't have this certification or doesn't have the knowledge base. And so he was supportive in that. So I took classes, I enrolled in that, and then COVID hit. And
Oh boy. Yeah.
yeah, and then our Churton Soup at the time was still going to retire, and then he had a conversation with me and said, I'd like to recommend you to be the superintendent after I leave.
Wow. Wow.
And that kind of took me at like I was shocked, because one, I didn't feel like I was ready to do that, and I
Hmm.
had not wanted to do that position. But with everything going on with COVID and the needs of our community, I I really had to think about what was best for our kids and for our families. And so I took about 3 weeks to decide and had conversations with my family, with all of my family, my extended family as well. Like, what would this mean? If I did this, would I even be hired by the board? And so I said, yes, I'll put my name in. And then the board agreed to hire me as the superintendent. And so that's where I've been ever since. And it was really hard because especially with COVID, um, we didn't open up back when some of the other schools did, because it really hit our tribal community hard. We lost a lot of elders and within our tribal community, we have a lot of multi-generational homes.
Mm-hmm.
So I was very, very cautious and adhered to what our tribal councils wanted to do as far as
Mm-hmm.
allowing school to be open or not, getting the vaccination for staff and wearing masks and just being very diligent with our health and safety precautions. And it took a lot of flack for that because a lot of the non-native schools around our counties were open, but we weren't. And it was hard. I had to stand firm for our kids. I got calls from the governor's office saying, "Why aren't you opening school? Why are you requiring staff to get vaccinations?" And it was for our kids. You know, this that COVID pandemic affected us down to our core, and it still is. We still are seeing the effects of COVID. We still have um, staff that get sick, and we, you know, take precautions so that we're not spreading it to
Yeah.
our families, and it's very real. And we had some um, people that were very much against it, and you know, wrote awful letters to me and made threats and, you know, just, "Why are you doing this? It's not real." And it was very real and is very real for our Indian community. And
Mm-hmm.
I think because I'm a tribal member, because I'm from here and I have family here um, at the school, you know, that it's very personal to me. And so
Yeah, you bet. You bet.
really, really advocated for
Yeah.
that. And I don't know. It's just I think that's one of the strengths that I have is being an Indian woman. I'm very um, compassionate, and I'm also, um, I guess, coming up from my background, I'm very thick-skinned. So I
Yeah. Yeah.
take.
Well, it sounds like you're very comfortable in your own skin.
Mhm,
Sounds like you stand firm for what you believe, and that's what at least most experts say leadership requires. So you're a leader that exemplifies that. I relate to you on a couple of fronts. One of them is COVID. I got a really bad case of it myself. In fact, I was hospitalized.
oh,
So I understand the enormity of
mhm,
that disease and how it hits people so terribly. I'm just, by the grace of God, I'm here to be doing this interview, and so I look back at that and I say to myself, yeah, it really was tough. So you had a very tough situation with that, no matter what. Then the other item would be the mixed race thing that you were talking about. I myself am not mixed race. I'm Iranian of
mhm,
Azerbaijani background. I became an American, but I understand different ethnicities growing up with that, different languages growing up with that, and the sometimes the subtle, let's just say,
mhm.
discriminations that come with that. So
Yeah.
I understand some of that, but I think most people are well meant, and
Hmm.
I think you saw that, and I think you grabbed the hold of it, and you didn't let the race issue stop you, which I
Hmm.
applaud you for that. That's something that I've done myself in my life, and I just focus on, you know, whom I can talk with, and just build the positive on that, and that's kind of what I've done all my life. And I also have three daughters that are half Iranian, half not. So I get, they're half white and half me, and so
Hmm.
I get that situation that you went through. And with that, I come to this, that let's just not look at race, America. Let's just look at the person. Let's look
Yeah.
at the person. Let's work with the person. And as a classroom teacher, I know that's what I always try to do, because it's the person that's coming into my room. And I just looked at it that way. So let
Hmm.
me bring this to you right now. How do you look at the classroom?
I look at the classroom. I guess I'm fortunate to have that early childhood lens that I look through, and also the special education lens, where I think all of our kids have untapped potential, and we have so many smart kids. Oh my goodness. And I want kids to experience the best at school. I want them to
Mm-hmm.
have fun. I want them to get good meals. I want them to have that support that they need to be successful, to try things. And
Mm-hmm.
and if they fail, it's okay because you learn through your mistakes. And I don't
Mm-hmm.
want kids to be ridiculed for not knowing the right answer all the time, because that's part of growing is learning, making mistakes, adjusting and relearning things, um, and doing things that you're comfortable with, or that, like for myself, I was very shy and there were some things I really wanted to do, and but I didn't let it hold me back because I wanted to have that experience. And that's what I want for kids. I want them to know that, we're here, we have great teachers, we have great para educators and support staff. We have amazing people here, and some people that have been here for years and years and years.
That's great.
Yeah, and it's just
Yeah.
really makes my heart feel good when I see kids laughing and smiling and having um, a good time at school, whether it be socially or academically. And we're doing some great things here with kids. We have some great science fair projects. We have kids
Mm-hmm.
that really excel in math. We have kids that excel in reading and writing. We have kids, of course, that excel in sports and things like that. And I just want them to be proud of who they are and where they come from, and
Yeah.
let them know that there is a big wide world out there beyond the reservation, and they can go and experience it and still come home. Because a
Yeah.
lot of
Yeah.
times, we get so set in not going away from home because you miss out on that community and you miss out on your family, but it'll be there for you, and you have that support to go and do what you need to do,
Mm.
and always come back home. And
Yeah. Yeah. It's there. Yeah.
mhm.
Yeah. That's for sure. So tell me about some of the challenges in your role and some of the successes that you have seen from students or whatever. Go ahead.
Some of the challenges I think we have is we're very rural in Wyoming, and even more rural on the reservation. And
Mm-hmm.
we don't have a lot of the same types of supports that other schools in the bigger towns do. Um, Staff housing is limited for us, in order to attract some of the great teachers that we have to pay more salary wise, which we're willing to do, but you know, there's a cost. And right now,
Yeah. Yeah.
with the government shutdown, we are unsure of whether we're going to get some of our federal grants. And one of the programs that really um, spearheads a lot of what we do is impact aid money. And
Mm-hmm.
that's because we're on a reservation, which is federal lands, federal trust lands. We don't have a tax base. And so we get impact aid monies to offset the taxes. And right now it's in limbo. And that's about 48% of our budget is our impact aid dollars. And so
Yeah.
we have to be very careful now moving forward. Um, We've a few years ago, it's about 7 years now, I'm looking out the window at our new school. We got new school facilities, which we haven't had in forever, and that's been great. And without our impact aid dollars, we wouldn't have been able to get the facilities that we have because of our school construction money and the way that that's funded through the state. So
Mm-hmm.
we have some limitations there as far as access to certain things. And on the other hand, we have a great school board and that supports students. And they, one of their first um, thoughts that they do before making any decisions is it the best for kids? What's in it for
Yeah. Yeah.
So they do support a lot of our activities and initiatives that we do here as far as project-based learning, field trips, clubs, student organizations, things like that. And we try and offer our students not, you know, the gold, everything paid for, but we do offer our kids a lot of experiences and opportunities that they might not get otherwise. And
Mm.
um, I think it's been really good for our staff to know that um, we appreciate what they're doing and that when they're going the extra mile or extra way to do things for our students, that we appreciate that and we try and accommodate them with um, a good salary, with good benefits, with some recognition and
Yeah.
things like that. We during COVID, when we came back on campus, and we had some kids here and some kids still in virtual, we started a wellness program for our students or staff, and it's trickled down to our students so that we every Friday we have early outs so that our students can go home and then our staff can have some professional development time, but also an hour of wellness where they, take time away from the computer, take time away from um, the stress of their work and go and socialize with other staff members. They can go walking, they can play volleyball, they can do some arts and crafts, they can do some beading activities, play, board games, whatever, just kind of have that camaraderie where they can enjoy themselves and enjoy the
Mhm.
people that they work with. And that's continued. We still do that every Friday. And sometimes we do great big district-wide wellness things where everybody's included and that's been good. Um, and some of the things I'm proud of is our accreditation and things like that. Some of the school improvement efforts that we've been making, we're seeing gains in the classroom.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful.
We have some kids that, for years, um, we don't have a really high proficiency rate on our state
Mhm.
assessments. And I always think, that's one snapshot of our kids in time. And I myself was not a very good test taker. And so I don't,
Yeah.
I don't,
I wasn't either. I
yeah.
wasn't either. Yeah.
Yeah, and so
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
dwell on the fact that if we
Yeah.
have kids that aren't proficient, but we have very smart kids. And over the past few years, we've seen gains in our kids that were below basic, moving into basic, and our kids from basic slowly moving into proficient. And
Wow.
we have kids that are called the bubble kids. They're right on the edge. And
Wow.
that percentage has gone up. And so we are making gains. And we have kids that are doing tremendous things. And we just want them to be celebrated and be proud of that and know that, we recognize all of their efforts.
That's
And
wonderful. That's
yeah,
wonderful. Well, sounds like they're behaving, sounds like they're learning, sounds like they're serious about their education. Would that be about right? Yeah.
yes, yes,
Well, that's wonderful. What else do you want? I mean,
yeah.
I'm talking to myself. That's
Mhm.
wonderful. What else is there? I mean, that's a fantastic school system. God bless you for what you're doing. As we wrap up, unfortunately, time is limited. So as we wrap up, I have one last question for you, and that is, there may be kids in your very own building or other places where they're 11th grade, 12th grade, maybe first year of community college, unsure about what they're wanting to do, and they want to do something like what you've done.
Mhm.
Go in the path of being an administrator or teacher, go into the education world. What's your advice to them?
My advice to them would be to not give up. And I
Mm.
know that there's times where you'll have setbacks and you'll think, that you can't do it, but you can. And you just keep trying and you just keep thinking about the bigger picture, like uh, the difference that you can make when you decide what you want to do with your life.
Mhm.
And there's so many other people that look up to you that you don't know.
Yeah.
until you're there. And
Yeah.
it's very, how do I say this? It's very humbling to
Yeah.
to know that you touch a lot of people's lives. And these kids are wonderful, and they just have to believe in themselves because there's so many people that believe in them, and they have to
Okay.
remember that they're not alone.
Well said. Well said. Superintendent Smith, um, fantastic talking with you. It's been an honor. If folks want to reach out to you, how do they do that?
I have my contact information on our website, which is fortwashakeeschools.com, but my email is dsmith@fortwashakeschool.com.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for joining us. Best of wishes to you throughout the school year. You were
Thank
doing a
you.
fantastic job. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's been a
Yeah.
pleasure.
Bye bye.